facility steering team updates.
Yes. The facility steering team met with Amy from Insight Design Studios to look at the data from their analysis of the school district so far. So yours is not in color, so it's you can kind of see what it would look like up there on the screen up there, if that helps to give you a visual. So the first slide there, it looks at our facilities with regard to their age. And by age, it's the oldest part of construction. There may be some add-ons to that, but it refers to the oldest part of it. Square footage, capacity, how they scored on facility assessments. So for this information, they've collected a building profile, floor plans, they had engineers evaluate the buildings, they used educational facility assessments, they looked at enrollment forecasting, they reviewed demographic information, they conducted building administrator interviews, and there was an online staff survey. With that information, and you may have gotten that survey too as board members, by the way, you might remember that. With that information, then they analyze results to create a future capacity analysis, a facility assessment score review, and they provided the summary thus far. So as you can see on there, you know, they're saying that really our capacity is good. You know, we have the ability, if we were to grow, to hold new students, more students, but some of the issues were more with the facility assessment and you know, the structural mechanical, the building maintenance, the security, safety, you know, those sorts of things. You can see where they scored at borderline on the main building and in a few parts on the annex. So takeaways from that is on your next page, your next slide. And I'll kind of go through just exactly that. The main building, the exterior, standing water and groundwater infiltration are a concern. They say consider improving the public parking near the gym. Security, line of sight from reception station to the parking lot and entry door is limited. Some perimeter doors didn't fully latch when they were here. And they say classroom doors aren't easily secured from the inside. I'm not sure which classroom doors that they were referring to on that one, so I'll have to check. The building, and this again is the main building, roof leaks are prevalent. There are not enough restrooms. The staff restrooms lack privacy. The teacher workroom or break room is inadequate. Cafeteria is undersized for current enrollment. Sound transmission between classrooms and offices is a concern. They talked about considering adding a sensory or cool down room. The restrooms near the gym aren't large enough. The entry vestibule is dim, unwelcoming, with no heating or cooling. In general, finishes like, you know, flooring, walls, ceilings are worn and deteriorating. The multi-purpose flooring is the most deteriorated, they comment. Consider upping curb appeal out front. And there are some blind spots in camera coverage. Mechanical, electrical. Some exit lights do not have backup battery. Interior lighting varies throughout. Most HVAC system or equipment doesn't provide appropriate ventilation, and humidity is a concern. And then some or all of the fire alarm system requires an upgrade. There are some current concerns with some of it being voice and some of it not. As far as the annex buildings, the exterior, you know, they comment that the parking lot is gravel. Then it likely will need additional lighting. And then the building itself, there are some roof leaks. Classrooms lack built-in storage in the annex. Classrooms lack adequate natural light. Sound transmission between classrooms is a concern. Interior drywall partitions are not very durable, like the cinder block in the main building is. And then some or all of the fire system then could require an upgrade as well. So those are the key takeaways that they had at that point. The next steps on the next slide then, that demonstrates the work that we have yet to do. We need to collect a deferred maintenance log, schedule workshops with the community members, workshops with students, and have additional meetings with staff as needed. This should ultimately be done by the end of the year. However, some of the COVID-19 restrictions, we are reviewing when and how and if these things can be scheduled. So with the guidelines provided of staying home, it's looking like we're going to have to push off those meeting dates with community workshops and student workshops. So until it's safe to bring the community together and meet with the architects, we're just kind of on a wait and see before we can schedule that. But once all of that is accomplished, all those meetings occur, all of that information is compiled, then they're going to add to their system all of that information, and then they produce a facility score review and an analysis. And in the fall, then they would plan on additional steering committee workshops and community workshops to finalize a plan for the board. The goal would be ultimately to have a solid plan ready for approval in December. So there's still time. It's just that unfortunately we're going to have to wait for some of the student and community workshops with the architects.
So worst case, you may have to have more of a consolidated program next fall of, if we can't get back to spring, next fall do this real quickly in September, October, November. And we did ask them, or she was here, we asked her on the assessment score, the borderline, satisfactory. I think Derek, we asked her, the only school she had that was excellent was people that had just built one the last year.
Brand new schools are the only ones that get an excellent score.
And she said after a year, they don't get excellent more, they go down to satisfactory.
And our score is a 65% at the borderline. So it's just under satisfactory on the actual old part of the building.
And she said, I asked her, she said that's good for as old as school is and as many additions as there are. And
yeah, for all of the key takeaways, that were mentioned, there were so many more positives that they did discuss.
But yeah, we had this plan for this spring to be able to go through this stuff, so we'd have, by next fall, have some to work on, and may have to be postponed and cram together next fall instead, if we're not able to come back before then. All right, anything else on that?
No, I think that's the information on the steering team.